What's up, everybody? My name is Rob, and welcome back to Rule of Two Review, where today it's Rob Theories number 2 as I discuss if Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft should allow their consoles to play together. So as I'm slowly in the process of removing IGN from my life, because I really just can't get behind a lot of how that site is operating anymore, even though I used to really stand behind them, there was an article recently that was posted that kind of sparked this idea. I had a different theory for what I was going to do for Rob Theories number 2, but this was such an interesting topic that I wanted to touch on it really quickly and share my opinions. The article in question on IGN is entitled, If Whether or Not Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony should tear down the walls that are preventing them from playing online together cross-platform. It's a very interesting idea and topic. It's been talked about for a long time, especially going back to the 6th generation when online for consoles was slowly starting to become a thing. And there wasn't a lot of games that did it, you know, SOCOM, Final Fantasy XI, stuff like that. But, you know, at that time, I think even Phantasy Star Online, the GameCube versions, which was pretty cool. You know, those games in that generation were the beginning of the console market going online for gaming. And at that time, you know, we were less mired in the whole division between the three companies. And so the idea of cross-platform play was kind of a conversation. I mean, I was working at a GameStop at the time, so I was having these conversations with the general gaming public. And that's what I remember people talking about. It was a really interesting idea. Nowadays, we know that we live in this world where there is no way in hell that that is ever going to happen. I have my own theories on whether or not that could and should and why it should or shouldn't. The article is pretty well written on IGN. However, it's pretty stupid. I can't get behind a lot of the ideas and the way it's actually written and presented, which is, you know, it is just the way it is. But I definitely want to talk about my ideas and why I think that is or isn't a good idea. So the quick and easy answer is that no, absolutely not do I think that that should be a thing. I can definitely see why some people think it should, and I also will say at the end of the day, it's also not the worst idea in the world. I don't think it would lead to like the downfall of anything or be the be-all end-all for any company or necessarily even make gaming worse per se. There's an element of that I think could be neat. We do know that there's been the occasional games in the past that have combined the PC and console gaming market, structure, I should say, worlds. Final Fantasy XI is one of those games. Final Fantasy XIV is another, where the PS2 and PC and PS4 and PC respectively are playing on the same universe. Was that game Mag on the PS3 the same way? I can't remember. I don't, and there's been other stuff too that's done that. You know, the occasional game that's allowed those worlds. There was a Portal 2, of course, was a big one for the PlayStation 3 version and the PC version. And you know, that stuff is neat and has been neat. But I'm gonna kind of, you know, work within a double standard here and say that when it comes to the PC market, I think that there is a benefit. And I think that that's okay, and I think that that should happen more often. I think the PC market, which is kept so separately from the console market, even though, you know, 90% of the PC market is the same as 90% of the PlayStation and Xbox's library, which is a shame. But other than that, they're still kept very separate. And I love PC gaming, so I'm not slamming it. I love it to death. But it's kept so separately that I think that if a PC game and a game that plays on either the PlayStation, Xbox, or Wii U were using the same online universe, I think that that's great. I think there's a benefit there, and I like the idea of that. I think that it makes it hard for the PC version to be running smoothly. I know that that's been the complaint in the past. Oh, DC Universe Online was another one that I just remembered, too, for the PlayStation 3 that did that. But I know a lot of PC gamers will say, well, you know, my Final Fantasy XIV game would be better if all these console dipshits weren't jumping on and, you know, creating lag and preventing the servers from performing optimally and things like that, which is probably pretty true, to be fair. I've never done that, but I could imagine that being true. So I do think that that needs a little bit of work to make it more stable and to make it more ideal. But, you know, long story short, I think that the PC and the console stuff is fine. Now, when it comes to the consoles, you know, the reason that I don't think that they should ever really start to work together is a personal one that a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with or understand, and that's okay. This is a Rob theory. I'm Rob. I'm sharing my theory and my opinion on the subject. Honestly, I like the fact that there's a difference. I don't want to play Call of Duty on my Xbox and have PlayStation players jumping in and combining world. I just don't want to do that. I like the idea that we have this very organized, comfortable Xbox universe, PlayStation universe, and Nintendo universe. I think that that works fantastically. I don't think we need to be combining gamers and the worlds and the universes and I don't know. I want Microsoft to be able to sell me on their world, their system, only their features, only what Xbox Live allows us to do, and only the Xbox Live community. And I want the Nintendo community to stay the same, just the Nintendo community and just the PSN community. I think that that kind of succinctness is ideal. I think it makes it better and more uniform for the individual companies, their business model, structure, and products. That's just what I like. It's just comfortable. I think it's more efficient and it makes more sense. Now, one thing the article on IGN did say that I definitely understand and agree with is that it's not so much, he's trying to make the case for it being a smart thing, and it's time for cross-platform play to become the norm. Again, I disagree vehemently. I cannot agree with that in any way, shape, or form. However, he makes a couple good points that even if it was going to happen, it would take a while. It's not a matter of flipping a switch and allowing all these consoles to be able to play the same games together online, whether it's Destiny or Call of Duty or whatever. You can't just make that happen. It takes time, it takes work, it takes money. Another reason, which, by the way, why it will never happen, but it would definitely take that. He's true. He's correct. The other thing is that he mentions how the current consoles are built from the ground up to not allow that. So we don't really live in a world where the current console hardware could really do that, on a regular basis and make it stable and fun and worthwhile. Again, the PC market is always able to kind of do that. Consoles, not so much. They get locked hardware, so that is just the way it is. So, it's something that he mentions the idea of the only way it would really work is if we were to look at a new generation where the consoles were built that way from the ground up. And then you get into the whole political bureaucratic drama of whether or not Microsoft and Nintendo and Sony can all start to, agree and work together to allow these things to happen. I just don't think that, not only would that not happen, but at the end of the day, I don't really think that it's going to be seen as a benefit. I don't think any of the three console manufacturers see it as a win for their team or for anybody. I don't really think that it would do a lot to make gaming better. I don't really understand the nature of the case, other than that you're doubling and tripling the world and the amount of people you can run into. But let's be honest, even if you've got 100,000 people online at any time, you're fine. You're going to have completely full game worlds and people to play with and matches to be put together. We're not going to be struggling to find people, let alone the fact that at any given time there's probably millions of people on these networks. Like, we don't need to increase the amount of people available. There's no benefit. I don't understand, unless it's like PSN gets to advertise on Xbox Live and vice versa, and then what the fuck? No one would ever allow that. So it's just, it's an interesting topic, and although there's a couple of sides that I can see why people would want it, and like I said, it would never be like the worst thing in the world. It gets your brain thinking, it gets it wondering, it's a very provocative subject. It's an interesting idea, but at the end of the day, I don't think it should happen, and B, it never, never, never will happen. So those are my quick thoughts and ideas on a pretty simple subject that was brought to us by IGN. Like I said, not a great article, but I appreciate the idea and the purpose. And you know how I feel? I don't think it should happen. I like the three systems keeping their models and their networks completely separate. I'm 100% okay and comfortable with that. And I don't really see a benefit to combining the networks. There really isn't a plus there. And there's not really a negative either, but there's not a plus, so I don't know. It's a weird idea, but it's a fun one to talk about. Those are my thoughts and ideas. What do you guys think? Did you read the article on IGN? Do you have any input this way or that? You've heard my opinion, but I'm definitely curious as to your opinion. It could be very different. There's nothing wrong with that. Thanks for tuning in. Of course, if you like what I'm doing here, you can subscribe to Rule of Two Review. Like and share your comments and your thoughts on the video below. Follow the links below to the Facebook page and the Twitter, both of which I run. And thanks for tuning in. I will catch you guys on another video for Rule of Two Review.